Hello guys. Yes, this is the person that I'm looking for. Sorry, let me just get... Yay. Welcome to another episode of Home Interviews in Lifestyle Essay. Oh my gosh, did I send it? No, I didn't. Samora!
Hey!
How are you?
I'm well. How are you doing?
Hey, we are surviving under the circumstances. Thank you for asking.
Not just survive. Life is too good to be surviving. I understand that we're going through a pandemic, but I feel like you make your own happiness. You make your own moment. So
Definitely,
no, we
but
can't be surviving out here.
some things are out of our control, you know?
Yeah, but I think the state in which your mind is in is always within your own control. We give external factors and external people so much control of, what goes on in here.
Definitely.
So we need to rein it in, and I think one of the things that we actually need to do is just celebrate the small wins every single day, because I think we tend to look at the bigger picture so much and be like, oh,
I
so
could
broke.
have,
I don't have money.
yeah.
Oh, I can't go here, I can't go this. But if you are able to feed yourself, that is a win, because there's so many people out there who are able to do that because of this situation. But let's not start this off on a on a somber note,
Got it. So how have you been doing with the pandemic and stuff? How's life? How's work? How's everything?
Life is okay. Life is okay. I think in terms of life has actually been good.
Good.
Yes, life has definitely been good. I think, like I was saying, we tend to have so many external factors that come into our lives, and what this period has allowed me to do has allowed me to strip away all of that and take away the noise. Udineo Ranaka once said, "I'm blocking off the voices in my head." So.
Oh.
Yeah. No. So it's been a great period for me, because I've been able to kind of block out those noises from the outside and actually just focus on myself and interrogate myself with regards to some of the things that I've been going through, and because hasn't been anything external that has kind of tried to fill the void. I've actually had to go through those motions, and going through that has actually just made me such a better person and such a happier person. So now I can actually sit by myself with my own thoughts and be content.
So you can positively say that this pandemic has not affected you negatively. It has done the absolute greatest for you.
Affected my money.
Okay, of course.
Definitely affected my money.
Yeah, there's that.
Let's talk about that. Like, it's definitely affected my money. But I think the one thing that it's had its negatives and positives. And
Definitely.
For me, money will always be made at some point. We can always go back or go forward and make more money. But I think this period has enabled me to have clarity and to focus on my mental well-being, which is something that is, I think, at this point in time, more important than the financial gains that would have been made if we didn't go through
this pandemic, definitely. But there are times where you just sit by yourself and you're just like, yo, I can't. Because I know personally, though, at the beginning, I was like, I'm not going to survive this. I'm going to go crazy, sitting at home with my family 24/7 every day, not going to work. But I've found myself doing better. Now I think I can mentally, I know where I'm going. Spiritually, emotionally, career-wise, I have a better direction, because I personally believe that if you come out of this pandemic with no direction, then
people, especially people who have kind of made it in life, they always tell you never let a world crisis go to waste, or a good pandemic go to waste. So at least we've been able to have some kind of development up here, where now it's not a complete waste.
Because I feel like this is a time for creatives to come through with the most, do the most, whether you're an actress, presenter, musician, whatever. Just do the right things. Oh,
Definitely.
sorry
Are you okay?
about that.
Wasn't
Yes,
you
my
that?
phone just fell. No, I am good. I'm still standing. Okay. 2 years ago, you moved from Cape Town to Joburg. Correct me if I'm wrong. For the Real Goboza gig, right?
Actually, no.
No.
No. I moved to Joburg 3 years ago, not
Okay.
specifically for Real Goboza. I moved because I felt I had reached a ceiling where I was working before. I think anybody that follows me on social media would know how my mind works and my personality. And working on kids' television for me was very frustrating because I always had to kind of bring it back and bring it down.
Oh,
So the shade and the spice and the craziness that people see on RGB now, you know, it was
wasn't.
something I was stifled before because I was working in a genre which required me to speak to a certain age group or a certain target market.
Yeah.
And it was very frustrating for me. And I think part of it also, I went through some hectic kind of like emotions with that. Because another thing, it's not just what you say on air, it's also how you conduct yourself on social media. It's also the kind of
It
places
reflects.
where
Mm-hmm.
you can't be seen drinking. And I'm just like, yo, babes, I'm also a student. I love a cold black label at Stones, you know? So like
Ndiyacela, please.
so I was that guy, and I was just like, so I was constantly getting into fights with my employers as well, you know? And I had to make a choice. I had to sit down and be like, you know what? One of the things that I really need in my life is I need growth and I need development. And
Mm-hmm.
to find it where I am now. And I need to be myself as well, you know? I need to live my life in a way where I can actually be myself and be happy
Yes.
without all of these restrictions and all of that. So I think I made the decision that I was going to resign probably after about a year or year and a half into that job. And I told
Mm-hmm.
myself, when I get to year number 4, I am going to resign.
Hectic.
And everyone thought I was joking. And rightfully so. It was 4 years and 12 days after I had started at that job. I was like,
4 years and 12 days. So you went over Nje by 12 days just
that's
to
like
give him
12
a
days.
chance. Just Nje.
Yeah, you know. And I moved to Johannesburg, and I moved specifically um, with the mission of getting a job at SABC One. So I
Okay.
got a job in SABC One because I'd done a show on SABC Two and a show on SABC Three. Um,
Right.
you know, so now for me, I wanted to kind of complete the triangle. So I wanted to
Mm-hmm.
one, and I left my job. I packed all my stuff up into my car, and I drove through the night and moved to Joburg. Um, it was a very difficult year. I knew I wanted to show SABC One primetime, but I didn't specifically have okay, I want RGB, or nor had there been any communication with regards to RGB. Uh,
Okay.
RGB at that time, I think Fat Joe was still hosting the show.
That
So
was a while ago.
it wasn't even Donovan Goliath. It was still, you know, Fat Joe. So for me, it wasn't even on the cards. It wasn't even something that I thought of. But I said, I put out to the universe and I said, I want my name to be mentioned in the relevant boardrooms, and specifically being the boardroom as SABC One. And I started finding out that it was actually being mentioned when I was getting requests from production companies to
Mm-hmm.
do auditions because they had heard about me from SABC One, you know. So that's kind of how it happened. I went onto Instagram one day and I saw I had a DM, and it was from my now producer for RGB, saying that SABC One had requested that I come audition, and I did, and I guess the rest is history.
The power of the tongue.
I know, right? I know. A
Like
friend of mine.
I feel like a lot of people don't understand how powerful saying things really is. Like,
Yeah,
it's deep. It's
totally,
quite deep. Can I
totally.
just
And
give you props? Sorry for being Connection. Are we back? Sorry. Are we live?
Oh, sure. No, of course. I mean, I work in broadcasting, babe. So, time, you know.
Yeah, no, I didn't expect that. I was sitting here. Okay, I'm gonna do a link, talk about a few things, and then you were on it.
Always, always. I think the one thing that you know, that has always been kind of drilled into my mind. I might be late for like a work if it's pre-recorded, you know.
Okay.
But if it's live, it definitely you cannot. That's one thing that you cannot be, and that is late, ever.
Yeah.
You know. So yeah.
But, Siyabonga, thank you on our side. The country and the world is facing besides coronavirus. There's this thing, yeah, Black Lives Matter, and then there's the whole femicide thing that's happening. So I read up that last year you were a victim of a racist attack.
Yes.
So how big is your voice for what's happening right now? Is it how is it touching home? Is it what? How are you participating and being active in everything that's happening in terms of Black Lives Matter?
Okay, so here's the thing, right? For me, and I say this all the time, that this entire thing has been very eye-opening for me, especially my own case, because it was the first time that I'd actually experienced outward or outright racism. You know,
Okay.
in an environment where if there was racism, it was definitely very, you know, undercover, where maybe people are being racist at their own dinner tables whilst they're having dinner. But it was never being called a monkey or, you know, experiencing
all those things. Yeah.
them. You know, those were things that I only started seeing once I moved out of East London. And I've had to speak about it a lot, actually, over the last couple of months, because the way in which myself and a group of my classmates at AFDA are adding our voices to this is that we're putting together a documentary which is exploring what it is about. Well, firstly, it's for me to tell my story,
Yeah.
but it's to challenge, I think, the SAPS. You know, so
Also.
we're seeing so many cases of femicide. We're seeing so many cases of assault. You know, all of these things that are happening around the world. Yet there's nothing that is actually happening in order to give people the peace that they require. And
Definitely.
I said this earlier today, and I said we're living in a society where people only go to the police station nowadays to go and report a case for them to get a case number, just so they can report to insurance and claim from insurance. It's not because they actually have faith in the system that we're going through nowadays. And I think it starts there. It's a systematic problem that we are seeing, where we are not trusting the justice system that we're supposed to trust. And within, you know, we've always watched movies as young as we were back in the day, where it's always, oh, you need to trust the cops, etc., etc. But I think that we have been failed multiple times.
Definitely.
I am in a position where I completely feel helpless and hopeless, and I don't know what to do. And I just think that it's up to us to show that for everybody else, it's not just them who is frustrated. It's not just them that is going through all of this. And we all need to add our voices so that we can continue this conversation and put pressure on the system that is supposed to be protecting us.
Yes. What I feel is that I feel like on social media mostly, last year we had the whole Uinene thing, and it was a huge thing for that period because her case went viral. And I personally believe that it's always going to be a problem. It's always been a problem. So I feel that we shouldn't now focus on it now because the numbers are so high, or we heard about the story that went global. It should be a constant thing. We should be consistent in the supporting this movement, supporting that movement until we actually get to a point where justice is served correctly.
You know what the biggest problem is? And I say there's a video that I did actually, I think it's on my IGTV, which looks at a video that I had posted. So wow. I had this alter ego called Mdantsane the rapper, who
Okay.
I think back in 2015, I put up a video where I covered issues like the Black Lives Matter movement, because we had seen the upsurge of it, where it covered, femicide through Oscar Pistorius and the River Steenkamp case, and also just how much Black people need to work so much harder in order to get the recognition that, everybody else gets.
Yes.
And during this period, I think it was like 2 weeks ago, I decided to go and revisit it and actually explain what each line means. And I sat there and I realized, wow, we are literally, it's as if all the time there's just these loop-de-loops that keep happening where we keep going back. And how are we still talking about Black Lives Matter and femicide, again? And it's almost as if it's parallel times,
Yeah.
For me, one of the things that came out of that video for me, I said, we need to be done talking, because how often are you going to talk to people that don't want to listen? And how many people need to die before, people actually...
something happens, yeah.
So for me, I think it needs to come from the top. We, as us here at the bottom, have been crying and trying to call for change, but it seems as though those at the top are not necessarily listening. And I think why it's highly important that it is Youth Month this month, because one of the calls that I've been putting out is that for us as young people to go out there and take up space, as Zozbini said, because it's only us now that can actually put together a South Africa that is not tolerant of such behavior. You know? We have been speaking about it. It's now time for us to put that into action.
True.
Yep.
Definitely. Oh, you were telling us about it now. What, the Mtunzi the rapper? Mxolisi the rapper. Sorry. Please. Can I hear more about him?
So I think for me, right, and as children, we're always encouraged to have imaginary friends, right? Because that kind of builds your imagination. And I grew up as an only child, so as much as I didn't necessarily have, imaginary friends, what I did have was I had coping mechanisms to help me get through certain points in my life. So I remember being extremely self-conscious and very shy when I was growing up. And one of the things that I did was to create these alter egos, and where there was a feeling of being able to do something where I would not be where I would generally be self-conscious to do. So in high school, I think I kind of developed an alter ego called Bobby. And this was the guy that was, producing plays, and he wasn't scared to try out businesses and entrepreneurship, etc. Those kind of things. And had that throughout high school, and it built my confidence because I now started to feel like,
Bobby.
And that is going to have my name on buildings and had built this and all of that. So Bobby. However, right now, I think back in Mxolisi the rapper, which kind of just came out of nowhere. And Mxolisi kind of filled the gap of me always kind of having like a little bit of a fascination with, uba ngumrephanyana, you know?
Uh-huh.
And Umxolisi is able to bust the rhymes and put them up, and it doesn't feel like it's me, because Umxolisi has his own personality, you know. Yeah, so, and he can be that arrogant guy that, you know, draws a little bit from like an AKA, as in terms of the attitude, the things that I would get called out for if I did. So yeah, I think that's kind of how it happened, and that's kind of how it developed. He's kind of been put to bed a little bit, you know. He's there, but every once in a while I revisit it, and you know, something comes out, and it's all in the name of fun.
Okay.
There's also a video I think I did with Moonchild and my co-host Sinazo, which is also on my Instagram. I think I did that like last year. It was just us dropping some rhymes. Moonchild twerked a bit, you know.
Definitely check that out. If you weren't a presenter, if you weren't a radio host, if you weren't a producer, what would you be? Occupation.
Ooh. You see, now you have stumped me by throwing in producer there as well, because I always my go-to answer is always, you know, definitely I would just solely focus on producing. But I think if I did not, let's say I did not go into the entertainment world, I think one of that I would have definitely done. Ooh. I probably would have been like a pilot, or I probably would. Yeah, well, I probably would have worked in like the health sector. I had a major fascination with being a pilot when I was a lot younger. However, I think the biggest problem with it is that I got to a point, and I think maybe it was when I was going through my stage as Bobby, where I said to myself, do I really want to be a driver for the rest of my life? You know? And I think I thought of it in that sense, and I was like, you basically are a long distance driver. Yeah, one that
But you are flying.
Yeah, but you are driving it. So you basically, you know, you are a long distance driver. And I think that's that dream. But definitely maybe a paramedic or a doctor. I don't know. I think I've always kind of known from my teenage years that I would end up in entertainment. So it's a very question for me to answer, because it was all so far back. And ever since I started doing theater and all of that stuff, I think the dream and the goal and the movement has always just been towards where I am now, and even further.
Yeah. What advice would you give to someone who is watching you and looking at every move that you're making and is like, I want to be like him. I want to someday be a radio presenter. I want to be a TV host. I want to be a producer, and much more. What advice would you give to someone that looks up to you?
Don't do half of the things that I do. Like, yeah, no, like, you know, I think one of the things that definitely sets me apart is I have an element of crazy which people just don't really understand. And it's one of the things that you need to be unique and tapping into that. So for me, I would say what you need to do if you are looking at maybe diving into this world is definitely find that thing that makes you unique and that makes you stand out. And definitely, I'm not gonna say necessarily capitalize on it. All I'm saying is that, you know, just tap into it, because a lot of the time what people do is that they try to curate themselves so much. They try to, everything needs to be so glamorous, and there needs to be these poses and all of that. For me, all I do is I go onto social media, and it's an extension of who I am. I think it's more so of an extension of my personality, because a lot of the time people don't get to see my
Who
full
you
person
really are.
on the shows that I work on, you know, and stuff like that. And a lot of people won't get the opportunity to meet me. So my social media has been a very, very cognizant place for me to kind of share more of myself and just little moments with my friends. And that saying that other things don't work for other people, but find what it is about you that makes you unique, and then definitely capitalize on it, and let people see it. You know,
Yeah.
let people embrace it, people enjoy it. You know.
My last question for you is, you had once said that you are married to yourself.
Oh gosh.
What exactly did you mean when you said that?
Guys, I was, you know, the weird thing, and literally I said that because I did not want to answer the journalist that had called me. Because at
Oh.
that time I was wearing a ring, right? Because I was
Uh-huh.
in a pretty serious relationship, which was pretty long term.
Okay.
Um, and I always say, whenever the person that tells the stories becomes the story, that's when you know you have a problem. So I try to avoid as much as possible being in the papers or having my life kind of spoken about. So when I got a call and this journalist was like, "We see a ring on your Instagram. What's happening? Are you engaged? Are you married?" So I was like, "Yo, guys, I'm not married. I'm not even seeing anyone. As a matter of fact, you might even say I'm married to myself."
It's
And I thought
myself.
with it, and I was just like, I can't believe that they actually really and truly ran with it. Like, I mean, you know. So that's kind of how that happens. By the way, I don't wear a ring
Interesting.
anymore.
Okay, so
Also, not to say the relationship is still there, you know.
okay. We won't speak on that. We'll just let it be.
Exactly.
Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for joining us. It's been really great energy, vibes. I like it.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Stop, babes.
Stay safe. Take
And
care.
everybody.
Do the most. Thank you for joining us. That was Sam. Abanyabambiza Samora. Catch him on RGB. Catch him on Channel Africa, which is a radio channel. And catch us Thursday with another amazing artist or amazing entrepreneur. You never know what we're going to bring you. Thank you from me, Father's Kid, and from Urban Lifestyle, SA.co.za. Till next time. Bye.